Welcome to the 13th presentation in the series where we're looking at the Gospel written by Matthew. I've entitled this one, The Miracles. In the last presentation we looked at the miracles in a general sense. Now we're going to look at them in a bit more detail. Looking back, chapters 5 to 7 in Matthew's Gospel, Matthew presents Jesus as the great teacher. And he shows that the teaching of Jesus carries great authority, speaks clearly, knows what he's talking about. In the 2 chapters that follow, Matthew presents Jesus as the great healer. Matthew has brought together several miracles from all over the ministry of Jesus. He's brought them together to show that Jesus is the great healer. The healing and the miraculous power of Jesus carries great authority. That's what Matthew is seeking to demonstrate in these chapters. We looked at the broad pattern. 3 miracles, all of which demonstrate that Jesus fulfilled the picture of the Messiah, the sent one of God, the promised one of God. 3 more miracles where Matthew shows that Jesus has authority over nature, over the demonic, and over the power to forgive. Then 4 miracles that demonstrate the sheer power of Jesus, God's power in operation. Matthew has organized them into a pattern to convey a clear picture and a clear message. Chapter 9 finished with these words. Jesus went through all their towns and villages. Now this is up in the north of the country, in the earlier part of his ministry, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and every sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Matthew is focusing everything on Jesus, who carries authority. And he healed because he cares. His heart went out to them. That captures the meaning of the word compassion. And he saw people who were being pushed around by the events of life. They didn't have a clear steer on the direction of where they were going. And the religion of their day had become so corrupted, so poor, that it didn't help them. When the storm was calm, no wonder his disciples looked at each other and said, "What kind of a man is this?" They were beginning to realize that the Jesus that they were working with was someone very, very different. That's what Jesus did and does. He released from the power of sin, sickness, and death. But he released too, it's positive, to a radiant, positive kingdom living. And in his teaching there's the picture of what that lifestyle involves. And in these chapters overall, Matthew shows a kind of popular reaction of the people. Crowds were coming, too many for him to cope with at times. There were some incredible faith responses. People just responded to him, wanted to trust him, wanted to move on. There was the signs of deepening discipleship, people becoming aware of what following Jesus meant. But at the same time, there's a growing opposition. Religious leadership and political leadership are usually the big sources of the opposition to Jesus. Then, but also today throughout the world. Now with that background in mind, we're going to look at the 10 miracles in just a little bit more detail. You may want to have a Bible open at chapters 8 and 9, because I won't actually put up the text on the screen. So let's move into the first of the miracles. It's also recorded in Mark's Gospel and Luke's Gospel. In general, Matthew shortens the accounts Mark gives the greatest detail. A leper was cured of leprosy. Now, the word leprosy at that time included a range of incurable skin diseases, and skin diseases that were highly infectious. So someone with leprosy was a social outcast. He comes to Jesus, and that breaks social taboos right away. He kneels down and calls him Lord. Now, the word there and the word for kneeling there are simply the normal tokens of respect. They don't mean anything more than that. Jesus touches the man. That broke every social expectation and rule of the time. You didn't go near a person with this for fear of catching the disease and then becoming another social outcast. Jesus touches the man. The man is confident that Jesus can heal, but he's not so sure if Jesus wants to heal. Jesus does heal him, and the regulations of the day, the health requirements of the day, required that somebody neutral had to be seen, and a priest would give the approval that the disease had gone. The healing is instant. In Mark and Luke's Gospel, it speaks of the man covered in leprosy. It was very obvious, and he's told after the healing to keep it quiet. Matthew has selected these miracles, he's put them in an order, he's organized this for a purpose, to show that Jesus can heal, wants to heal, but does not do it for publicity. These are great truths that we need to take on board today. He can heal. He wants to heal, but he doesn't want publicity for it. Let's be cautious over the third one. To the second miracle, a Roman soldier, a servant. Sometimes a servant could be treated almost like a son in the culture of the day. The servant's highly valued, but's paralyzed. Now the centurion could just have thrown him out as useless, but didn't. So there was some sort of relationship of caring, and again that reflects the Roman society of the day. Possibly the servant was close to being adopted. The centurion was very supportive of the Jews. He respected the kind of things that they did, the one God they believed in, the purity of their lives. If you look at the language, it could just as well be translated when Jesus said, Am I to come and heal him? That captures the original rather well. It also makes sense of the reply from the centurion. You see, in the culture of this day, it was not permitted for a Jew to enter the home of a non-Jew. So Jesus is kind of challenging him. Am I to come and heal him? The centurion knows the rule. You don't need to come, he says, just say the word. And that's why the centurion answers that way. It's a clever challenge to see the centurion's faith and to draw it out. His confidence grew. You see, he had total confidence in the ability of Jesus to heal. Jesus draws it out. But he also had confidence in the willingness of Jesus to heal. Just say the word. And it's instant and it's at a distance. Previously he touched the leper. This time he doesn't have to touch the servant. And there's a kind of warning. Here is somebody who is not a Jew, who is showing a level of response and confidence that Jesus wished the Jews had. He had confident faith, and it opens the doors to healing for his servant. He recognizes the authority of Jesus, but this is making a point. Outsiders are welcome. Jesus came from the Jewish people. Those who were not Jews were welcome to come to Jesus, to receive from Jesus. And that fundamental idea, which was a tough one to grasp, works its way through in the New Testament. We can all come to Jesus. To the third one. He just happens to see Peter's mother-in-law. And he heals her. And his reputation grows. It was a Sabbath, so people weren't allowed to move around, which is why they came in the evening, because the Sabbath finished at 6 p.m. So they came along when they were allowed to be out in the streets. Now this makes it clear that Peter was married. There is nothing in the entire New Testament that hints, says, implies ever that those who are serving Jesus and following Jesus are debarred from marriage. It's perfectly possible that Peter, travelling with the disciples, with Jesus, his wife was amongst the group of women who were there. It's possible his wife was left at home looking after children. We don't know. Just a need. He wasn't asked to heal her. He just saw a need. He healed her. And it was instantaneous and total, because the mother-in-law got up and started to carry out the duties in the home where she looked after the guests. Desperate people then came along in the evening when the Sabbath was over. He expelled the demons. You heal the illness, you expel demons, you clean leprosy. Just with a word, a command. Healed all the sick people, all of them. Anyone who came to Jesus was healed. And he sets it in the context of the picture from Isaiah of the coming suffering servant. This is making it clear that Jesus is the anointed one, the sent one of God, the suffering servant, and he comes to heal, he comes to restore, he comes to put things right that have been got wrong in this world. Expelling demons, healing illnesses, responding to need, healing all. A great picture and a great message that encourages the confidence. To miracle 4. With the disciples. Lake of Galilee, an inland lake. Caught in the hills. Storms can blow up rapidly, but these were experienced fishermen. Jesus exhausted. He's been reaching out, healing, teaching for a long time. He's fast asleep. Now these were experienced fishermen, at least some of them. They knew the lake like the back of their hands. But this was some storm. It says Lord save, but the word there really captures the idea of rescue. Lord, rescue. We are perishing. They thought the boat would go down. Probably none of them could swim. Lord, rescue, we're perishing. A satanic attempt to destroy Jesus. He challenges their lack of trust. And at his word, instant calmness. Amidst all the pressures of life and everything that life throws at us, Jesus can bring instant calm. This was early in their time with him, and the disciples just rocked back. Who is this? What kind of person is this who can calm a storm? He's Lord over nature, not just over disease. He's Lord over nature. But there's a challenge here to his followers. No matter what life throws at you, no matter how impossible it may seem, if I'm with you in the boat of life, all will be well. This time it's at the far side of the lake, in communities there that were possibly non-Jewish. Three things were unclean. Unclean by Jewish law. A burial site, pigs, and demonization. And literally that's what the demons shout at Jesus. They are in the man and they are aware of who Jesus is. What to us, to you, Son of God? They didn't want to be interfered with. They were living and controlling a man. Have you come here to torture us before the appointed time? They knew their destiny. But they were going to have a field day making a mess of human beings in advance of it. If you look at the New Testament as a whole, indeed the Old Testament too, that seems to be the case. These are just simply angels who are servants of Satan, who follow Satan and not God. And they like to infest life forms and create havoc. Now, if you look at Mark and Luke, there are two men. Matthew repeatedly simplifies this, and almost certainly he's just remembering one man, maybe one key man. Perhaps there were two men there, but one was very much the dominant one, and Matthew just focuses on the one. We don't know. It's a story of power confrontation. The power of Satan and his angels, the evil one. But with quietness, with authority, with power. Jesus always wins. A lesson for us today. The reaction? The man wants to follow Jesus. The local people want Jesus to get away, disturb their livelihood. And that's often a common reaction to a major healing. Two reactions: going with Jesus or asking Jesus to go. There's a contrast there that Matthew pictures. The paralytic man brought to Jesus. Again, Mark and Luke give more detail. The man was unable to walk of himself. He'd be carried like on a kind of thick blanket with one man at each corner, a sort of a stretcher. The men wanted their friend to be restored. Now, Jesus does not say that the sin caused the illness. Jesus uses that phrase, "your sins are forgiven," because he saw the reaction of the religious leaders who were watching his every move. He's challenging them. They were trying to explain away how Jesus could bring about these miracles, and people do that today. Jesus carried within himself all the power of the Holy Spirit, and he could come against all that blights and spoils people's lives in God's world, and he can restore. But he also can forgive us when things are badly wrong. He'd picked up the body language, he'd picked up the murmuring, he'd picked up the comments. He took them on. And he uses the healing to show, and I can forgive. And to show I can forgive, and he raises the man up to walk again. Two kinds of reaction. It happens again and again. People with awe, fear, and praising God. Fear is a kind of respect. But the religious leaders' resentment, you see, their power base over the people was being eroded. They wanted to control people. For their own benefit, of course. Jesus was challenging that. Jesus always confronts a religion. And he still does it today. We've got too much religion in our Christian communities. Jesus wants to release us from the power and control of religion. He can and he does forgive sins. But yet again, miracles generate diverse reactions. Let's not make too much of them. They're wonderful. Let's expect them. Let's move in the power of God to allow them to happen. But don't expect them to have a great effect on people that everybody will immediately follow Jesus. The religious leaders saw their power base eroding. The dead girl, daughter of a religious leader. There were religious leaders who were spiritually minded, who responded to Jesus, and here is one. They weren't all people who held power bases on control over people. There were godly people amongst them, and they did respond to Jesus. Got total confidence, you don't have to come, but do come, put your hand on her, she'll live. You can do it. Jesus got there, the news has come that the girl has died. He says, no, not dead but asleep. Now that's not a metaphor. That just means what it says. And the choice of the words in the original language show it. There's a kind of hint here that death is not the end. Couldn't possibly take everybody into the house. Imagine what the girl's reaction would be when she was raised to find her bedroom filled with strange people. Takes a small group and her parents. Takes the hand of the dead body. That's what he shows. When Satan takes a life prematurely, Jesus can reverse it. That is mind-blowing. But Jesus is filled with the power of God, the authority of God, and the most amazing things can happen. Think of the confidence of the girl's father. And Jesus makes it clear he wants the minimum publicity for the healing. This is utterly dramatic. But Jesus is Lord, and he's Lord even over death. When Satan takes someone's life prematurely, Interwoven with the story is the story of the bleeding woman. Now, someone who was bleeding like this was ritually unclean according to the religion. It was probably menstrual bleeding permanently. That's what she was saying under her breath. There's confidence. She knew she couldn't approach as a woman a man. Society forbade it. She knew she was ritually unclean and the man or anybody couldn't touch her. How can I get round this? I'll just touch the edge of his cloak. Then I'll be healed. And the healing was instant. You find the story again with longer accounts. But gently Jesus draws out her confidence. He brings her out from the shadows into the center of the picture. And we saw the play of sounds with the phrase, "Your faith has healed you." Jesus healed her. But we've got to be willing to respond to him, which is what faith means. It's action, not intellect. She wanted to come. She was willing to come. She believed he could heal. She was determined to receive the healing. She was healed. Faith and determination. She just took action. That's what faith always means. But gently and lovingly, Jesus reassures her. You see, faith opens the doors for healing. If we won't come to Jesus and if we don't believe he can do it, we kind of cut ourselves off. The woman was open. She was desperate. Recorded only in Matthew's Gospel. They called Jesus Son of David. Now that's code phrases. They knew who he was. And this reflects the fact that the ordinary people did recognize who Jesus was. They had started to realize that Jesus was the promised one, the Messiah, the sent one of God. The one who was going to come of the kingly line, so the reference to Son of David. The way Jesus taught and the way Jesus healed, the ordinary people recognized who he was. And they simply believed. He can heal us. He can give us back our sight. Took them away indoors. No publicity. Jesus healed them. Jesus never heals for publicity. Now you'll find another story in Matthew 20, but when you look at it, the differences are quite stark. It's in the south of the country. Different context, different situation. It's just another different story. It's not the same story that Matthew's confused. You see, they recognized that Jesus was the sent one of God, the Messiah. They had complete confidence that he could and would heal. Their healing was instant. We're talking about faith again. Willingness to respond, to take action. And the final one. Again, Matthew alone records it. The man was brought to Jesus, and again in the original language it was probably deaf-dumbness. But this time the illness was caused by a demon. Doesn't imply that it always is caused by a demon. But Jesus knew, and he expelled, precise word, he expelled the demon that caused the problem. The healing then followed. That's often the way today. There are some diseases which are caused by a demon that's actually hassling the person. Expel the demon, the healing then just follows naturally. And the crowd were amazed. But the religious leaders offer a ridiculous explanation. That is still happening today. When Jesus heals someone miraculously, which happens far more often than we appreciate, the media often just ignore it or explain it away. But tragically, religious leaders also try to explain it away, and they explain it away by all sorts of amazing contortions. It happened then, it happens now. And as always, a healing generates reactions that vary enormously. That is always the way. Now we've looked in just a little bit more detail at the 10 miracles. They are an amazing collation that Matthew has presented to us. We saw the pattern in the previous presentation. Jesus has authority in his teaching. Jesus has authority in the world of healing and the miraculous. We have so often emphasized the teaching and ignored the miraculous. The two go together, and Matthew shows it. And it wasn't just the 10, because when he healed the fevered mother-in-law, crowds came to the door, and Jesus healed them all. Healing unlimited for anyone who wanted it. Matthew demonstrates in this that Jesus is the promised Messiah, pictured in the prophetic writings, particularly in Isaiah. He's got power over illness, power over demons, power over death. We can have confidence. He's in control. He has authority over nature, authority over the demonic, the world of Satan, authority over sin and forgiveness, and his authority over all illness. We can have confidence in his authority and his power because he is the promised Messiah. Let's go back to where we started. That's Matthew's comment at the end. I've added the bit at the bottom. Ask the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest field. That's what Jesus said. Jesus heals because he has compassion. His heart went out to them. Jesus looks out in humanity and he sees us pushed around by the events of life and sometimes by Satan, lacking direction in life, lacking a steer. And he longs to help, to restore life purpose, peace, harmony, health and fullness. But there's something else. That's what Jesus did. Teaching, proclaiming, healing. Now you may have it in your Bible, preaching the good news of the kingdom. The word means proclaiming. It does not imply standing up in a pulpit or on a platform, giving a long address and shouting at people. Proclaiming can be done in a small group, in the one-to-one, in the ordinary things of society. Making the good news of Jesus known. There is no word in the entire New Testament in the original language that means preach as we understand it today. But that's what Jesus did. He taught, he shared the good news of the kingdom, and he healed every disease and every sickness. But then he says this: we're to ask God to send out workers into the harvest field to do the same. We are commissioned to carry on the work of Jesus. There's a threefold mandate there for the workers to follow Jesus into the world where people are lost and confused. And we're given a threefold mandate to teach, to proclaim, to heal. And that leads into the next chapter. That's what Jesus did. He healed, he cleans, and he expels. He does it because he's compassion. He does it because he has authority. All who ask for his help. But you come and ask without preconditions. That's one of our biggest weaknesses today. The outcome of his miracles, sometimes very grateful people, sometimes amazed people, but also people who are cynical and try to explain it away. That's what Jesus did. And he calls us to do the same. To teach, to proclaim, to heal, working with his authority and in his power. And in the next presentation we'll see how Jesus then devolves his authority to his followers to do just that.